Chapter 3 of Rich Dad Poor Dad is titled Why Teach Financial Literacy. In this chapter, Robert Kiyosaki explains why financial literacy is essential for achieving financial independence and success. He begins by emphasizing that simply earning more money does not solve financial problems. In fact, without financial education, earning more can actually worsen financial troubles because people tend to increase their spending as their income grows. The key to avoiding this trap, according to Kiyosaki, is learning the difference between assets and liabilities and knowing how to acquire income-generating assets. Kiyosaki's point here is that most people are financially illiterate, even though they might have high-paying jobs or advanced degrees. They do not understand how to manage their money effectively because traditional education doesn't teach financial literacy. As a result, people often spend their entire lives working hard for money, but they never achieve financial freedom because they don't know how to make their money work for them. Kiyosaki argues that the educational system is designed to train people to be employees, rather than teaching them how to manage, invest, and grow their money. Schools focus on academic and professional knowledge, but they don't teach practical financial skills such as managing debt, investing, or understanding how to create passive income. The chapter goes on to discuss the importance of understanding assets and liabilities. Kiyosaki provides a simple definition that is central to his financial philosophy. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, while a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. He points out that many people mistakenly believe that their home is an asset, but in reality, it is a liability because it requires ongoing expenses such as mortgage payments, maintenance, and taxes. Even though a home can appreciate in value over time, it doesn't generate income, and thus it's not an asset in the context of Kiyosaki's definition. He explains that one of the main reasons people struggle financially is because they are focused on acquiring liabilities rather than assets. For example, people often buy bigger houses or more expensive cars as their income increases, thinking these purchases represent wealth. However, these liabilities only add to their expenses, keeping them trapped in the cycle of working for money to pay off their debts. Instead, Kiyosaki emphasizes the need to focus on buying assets, things like businesses, stocks, bonds, real estate, or intellectual property that generate passive income and appreciate over time. Kiyosaki uses the example of his rich dad and poor dad to illustrate this point. Poor dad, his biological father, believed that buying a bigger house was a sign of success, and he saw his home as his primary investment. But this led to more debt and expenses, keeping him financially constrained. Rich dad, on the other hand, focused on acquiring assets that would generate cash flow, such as rental properties and businesses, which eventually allowed him to stop working and still have money coming in. This leads to one of the core principles of Kiyosaki's financial philosophy. The rich buy assets, the poor and middle class buy liabilities, but they think they are buying assets. He explains that the reason why the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class struggles financially is because of this fundamental difference in mindset. The rich focus on acquiring income-generating assets that can grow and produce more wealth over time, while the poor and middle class focus on acquiring liabilities that drain their income. Kiyosaki emphasizes that this misunderstanding is widespread because people are not taught to think about money in this way. Most people grow up believing that financial success comes from earning a high salary and owning a home. But these are not the real indicators of wealth. True wealth comes from acquiring assets that generate income, regardless of whether you are actively working. To illustrate this point further, Kiyosaki introduces a basic concept called the cash flow pattern. He explains that there are 3 types of cash flow patterns: one for the poor, one for the middle class, and one for the wealthy. The poor, their cash flow is consumed entirely by expenses. They work for a paycheck, and all their money goes toward basic needs like rent, food, and bills. The middle class, their cash flow is primarily consumed by liabilities. They earn money through a salary, but they use that money to buy homes, cars, and other things that add to their expenses rather than generating income. The rich, their cash flow is generated by assets. They acquire businesses, stocks, real estate, and other investments that provide passive income, and they use that income to buy more assets. The rich, Kiyosaki explains, are able to escape the rat race because their assets generate enough passive income to cover their expenses, allowing them to live without relying on a paycheck. The poor and middle class, however, remain trapped in the cycle of working for money because they spend their income on liabilities and expenses that don't contribute to their financial independence. Kiyosaki concludes the chapter by emphasizing the importance of financial education. He argues that everyone needs to learn how to build their own wealth through investing and acquiring assets, rather than relying on job security or saving money in a bank. He also stresses that financial education is an ongoing process, not something that can be learned once and forgotten. The world of money is constantly changing, and those who want to achieve financial freedom need to continuously educate themselves and adapt to new opportunities. In summary, Chapter 3 of Rich Dad Poor Dad highlights the critical importance of financial literacy. It explains how the difference between assets and liabilities is key to understanding wealth, and how most people fail to recognize this distinction, leading them to financial struggles. The chapter also emphasizes that true financial success comes from building assets that generate income, rather than relying on a job or acquiring liabilities that drain income.